The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Planted with Sara podcast. I'm Sara, your host, and today we have the CEO of Hello Again, Lisa Williams, on the show. Lisa, welcome. I'm really excited about our conversation today.
Sara, I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I've been waiting months to do this.
Me too.
So fun.
It's so much fun. And it was so fun seeing you at BizCon this year and actually getting to, with the flurry of activities and everything, we had an evening where a bunch of ladies got together and it was nice to just kind of somewhat chill, hang out.
It was, and what a great opportunity. I mean, it's Women's History Month. We're kicking off the month of March. We're talking right now in the month of March. We met at a women's cannabis event. Look at all the tie-ins together.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of tie-ins, what was your first cannabis experience?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I have to go way back to like high school. It was not a good experience. You really want to know?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I have some great stories. So it's a good thing you asked me about this. So the first time I ever tried it, I was in high school, probably 16-ish. And we're all at a friend's house. The parents are out of town. Somebody scores some weed. They had been smoking. They all knew what the hell they were doing. I had no clue. They told me, pick the biggest bud in the pile and we're going to roll you a joint. And I took maybe 2 hits. I was so fucking high, Sara. I was like kind of getting that paranoia type of feeling where I was like, this has to get out of me. I'm too high. We walked around the block, got some fresh air for a couple of, times. I think I just stayed there on the couch, maybe the rest of the evening, but that was the first time I ever got high.
But were you the friend that everybody's like, yeah, we're going to get Lisa high. It's going to be fun.
Yes. And then I'm like, okay. And we were playing quarters. So we were drinking and smoking. And I was like, this is not for me. This doesn't work for me. And to be honest with you, I tried smoking a couple more times after that. I just didn't, it just didn't feel right for me to be that high. And I didn't know how to control it or do it. I mean, we're teenagers, right? We don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you don't. You just know like the basics of it. I mean, that's the thing. Like until recently, you got what you got, so you couldn't be sure what it was, how it was going to work with your body.
Right.
Everybody was just generalized, like just lucky to have it. And
Yeah.
because when I was in high school, I had a really bad panic attack after having some. And actually, at the time, I wasn't high, but the one thing that I noticed was the correlation was I had been high not too long ago, and I got really, really anxious, and I was like, maybe this isn't for me. And then it wasn't until later on when I was much older that I understood the difference. I always thought when people would talk about indica, sativa, different cultivars, I was like, oh, you're such a snob. Like that's just
Right.
pot is pot.
Right. Well, so I grew up in the 80s and, it's huge war on drugs, right? And big, scary cannabis, weed, don't do it. I also grew up in El Paso, Texas, which is a border town. And we had very easy access to go over to Mexico and go. This was way before, the borders were highly secure like they are now. And you just walk in and out of Mexico to Texas. It literally was that easy with an ID. And so lots of drugs came through El Paso. And I'm gonna tell you a little story. So in college, I dated a guy who literally moved drugs for a living, pushed pounds. And I mean, we're talking massive amounts of drugs from Mexico to Texas, and then kind of flew all over the place and had, points of contact everywhere. And I'm a poor college student, right? And I'm paying for my own way. And so to help me get money and to help him out, I would go and almost be like a mule for him. So I know this is a crazy story.
I love it. Wait.
There there's really, really more craziness to what I'm gonna tell you, but I'll tell you the highlights. So he would pack it all up in big suitcases, this is way before 9/11, and go check it in at the airport, buy me a ticket, and then he would get on another flight. I would get on the flight, get off the flight, pick up the suitcases, and go meet him in a rental car, and did that multiple times until he kind of started feeling like maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore.
Were you nervous?
I think the first couple of times I was, and then I was just like, "Oh, these are just this is my luggage. I'll just grab it." And, I mean, highly risky, right?
Yeah, but
Especially
that whole thing with youth, it's like we're just like, "Whatever."
whatever. I mean, especially in this is like mid 80s, mid to late 80s. So yeah, I mean, totally could have gone to jail. Sad story is he ended up going to jail a couple years later. We broke up, moved on. I found out he was in jail. I graduated from college. We never really spoke again, but he did go to jail for a long period of time.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
back then. It's like they really, really threw the book at you, especially after, the Reagan years. That was like,
Huge,
yeah.
huge. Yeah. And then I never really touched cannabis, never really thought about it, never even really crossed my mind for years and years and years. And then when the Farm Bill became legal here in Texas in like late 2018, early 2019, CBD was all the rage and you could sell it anywhere and everywhere. And I actually signed up to do this multi-level marketing with the CBD company and sold a tincture. And that's when I started learning really about the endocannabinoid system, about cannabinoids, about how they work with your body, about how to use CBD at the time for wellness. And started diving into a lot of that research. And I was like, it really is made for wellness. But my mentality of growing up in the 80s and smoking a couple of joints and then the war on drugs is like, you have this stoner mentality, and it's really not that.
No, it's not. And people keep hanging on to that too. That's the thing that really perplexes me because as we see the market mature, I feel like we actually are being more immature about it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
we started the conversations around legalization with medicinal use. And like you, like I just thought weed is weed is weed until I
Mhm.
got sick with cancer and I started using it medicinally and I was like, ooh, wow. And this was even before we were having the conversations about CBD. Had I known more about that, then I would have used that while I was going through chemo. And
Right.
it's just it's such an interesting thing because we were having these great conversations. We were looking at supporting the community. We were looking at, I guess you'd call it altruistic capitalism, where people were making money but giving back to their communities. Then we get into legalization, and all of a sudden, it's like we're back to where politicians were afraid, where they're like, "Oh, it's just gonna be like a high fest." And it's like, granted, the public isn't treating it like a high fest, but I feel like some of our retail models are just like, "Yeah, it sells itself. We'll get all these stoners," and then they're like, "Our sales aren't great. What happened? Like, we've got people running around just, looking for the best buy. There are no true blue fans that keep coming back to us. What happened?" And the biggest disconnect, I think, is that we have, though people are like, "Oh, well, bud tenders aren't healthcare professionals. And now that we're in legalization with compliance issues, we shouldn't be talking about medicinal use." But they're missing a very, very important thing. Bud tenders are navigators. They help with the menu, they make suggestions. We can create safe containers for experimentation for the public to use
Correct.
cannabis. But what I found during legalization, because I was still a head of education for a major retailer in cannabis, was that more people were looking at it for wellness, help with sleep, help with anxiety. Women going through different times in their lives, like whether it be endometriosis, menopause, perimenopause, we're looking at it for things. And they've just missed a huge swath of the public that wants to use it for wellness and wants to have that conversation, but because when they're going into dispensary, it's just talking about THC, they're turned off.
They are. And, you see these products out there that are like high dose THC, and that's not what the majority of people want. They want to use it for their everyday life, which kind of transitions into why I purchased and acquired Hello Again,
Yeah.
because I had, like I said, back in 2019, work kind of did this multi-level marketing, started researching the endocannabinoid system. Couple years later, I own a marketing agency. I started working for dispensaries, running their loyalty programs and their email marketing and their social media, which gave me a fast track to education in the cannabis space. And so I'm learning as I'm working with them. I'm learning, I'm educating myself, I'm having to do research. My team and I are learning more and more. And I'm like, this really, truly is a wellness product. People want to use it for wellness. Me, myself, I have a host of symptoms from just in my women's wellness journey. I mean, when I was 21 years old, I was rushed to the hospital thinking that my appendix had burst. And it really was, I had cysts on my ovaries that had burst and spread whatever poison is inside a cyst throughout my lower pelvic region. And they ended up taking out or aspirating a lot of the cyst, but taking out my appendix at the same time. And so, I mean, I just have like this huge journey in that I had horrible, horrific menstrual cramps growing up and through my, even leading up to having children and after having children, I would be doubled over on the couch, popping Advil and eating chocolate. And it's like, how healthy was that for me to pop Advil at the rate that I was popping it? Because nothing was helping me. So if these kind of products, if Hello Again suppositories, vaginal suppositories were available for me back in the day, I would have gobbled them up. I love that it's a holistic, non-hormonal alternative that doesn't get you high. They don't get you high, the suppositories, and that it still provides all the yummy wellness that we need from the plant.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if we had more conversations about this, and actually, after I saw you in Vegas and I had taken home some of the samples, and to me, truth be told, I already had some at home and I was sharing them with my girlfriends because I was like,
Uh-huh.
try this.
Love it.
On my other podcast that I'm executive producer of, Puff Puff Press, we had a whole conversation, and my co-producer Britt, she's from the UK, so I was telling her, I was like, we're gonna have a conversation about coochie weed. And she was like, oh my God, oh my God, how is this going to pan out? I'm like, this is gonna be a great conversation because not many people understand about utilizing mucous membranes to, work with your endocannabinoid system. And she was like, okay, Sarah. I'm like, listen, I know you're British. I know you don't like to talk about this stuff, but this is a really important conversation to have because we look at, as women, we look at all these other alternatives that may not be the healthiest because, you think about what things like Tylenol and ibuprofen do to ourselves.
Mhm.
And then you think about things like birth control pills. Like I've had endometriosis since I was in 8th grade where I get cyclical vomiting and really bad cramps.
Mhm.
I went on the pill before I ever was intimate with anybody.
This episode is brought to you by Fat Nugs Magazine, a global perspective of cannabis and stoner culture as a bridge to the rest of the world. Right now, you can join Fat Nugs Magazine, Beard Bros Farms, Freedom Grow, and Jailed for Weed in the upcoming Prisoners Edition and help spotlight current and past cannabis prisoners and their stories, because no one should be in jail for a plant. Find Fat Nugs Magazine's beautiful print copies at your local dispensary, fatnugsmag.com, and on socials. Cannabis culture welcomes us all.
I had no idea until after cancer when I decided to take myself off the pill that was a reason that I was dealing with depression for decades. And that's not to say I would never say that it shouldn't be available. It's everyone's personal choice. It just didn't work well with me. And if I had known that there was a solution that would have created more sanity in my life instead of me having the mean blues several times in my lifetime, I would have jumped at the chance.
Sarah, I had cysts on my ovaries. I had large fibroids in my uterus. I had a miscarriage. I had a hysterectomy. I've had a host of symptoms and problems. I'm in menopause right now myself. If something was available that was natural, and I've been on birth control pills. I mean, I've had my right thyroid removed. There's so many things that I think back and think about the prescriptions I took, the drugs that I took, the over the counter, whatever I took, how disrupting it was to my gut, my health. And these options weren't available to me, but my goal is to make them available to everybody else. And to your point, I want women to have options. I'm not saying if Advil works for you, use Advil. If the birth control pill works for you, use it. If hormones, HRT works for you, use it. This is just an option that women have, and you could use it in conjunction with everything I just mentioned.
I think that's an important conversation to have. It's about creating options because in this world we have so many there are so many polarized conversations where someone's like, this doesn't work for me, therefore it's wrong and no one should have it. That's not the conversation we're having. We're having, let's educate people on all the options and choose what resonates the best for you. And the same thing for cannabis. Like when I was teaching my classes to the public, one of the first things I would say was even though we create our own endogenous cannabinoids, not all of us tolerate phytocannabinoids. And guess what? That's all right.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And for me, learning and educating myself and doing some research about the endocannabinoid system, about how a woman's vagina absorbs THC and CBD and how it gets distributed and it's not bypassed through the liver, and how, as a woman who's working and running a business every single day, I don't want to be high. I want the benefits, but I don't want to be high. And you think about like young moms who have children, or, women. I was just at a conference where it was a menopause conference, and there were hundreds of women my age, and we're all running businesses or work or have a life, and we don't want to be high. And so this is an option, but what I do know is your endocannabinoid system gets disrupted when you go through hormonal changes like your period or like menopause, and you have to rebalance it. You have to get it back into alignment, and one of the natural ways to do that is with cannabinoids that come from plants.
Yeah. And what you mentioned is one of the biggest fears I hear from mothers all the time. Like I just was up in Mendocino wine tasting in the Anderson Valley. And
Oh, how fun.
it was a lot of fun, and I was talking to this woman who was standing next to me, and we were talking about what we do for a living, and she was like, "Oh, cannabis." She's like, "Yeah, I've been curious about trying it, but I have kids, and so I need to remain present." And I was like, "Okay, so I get that, but do you know there are non-euphoric ways to use it? And you like wine, you know, how is that different?"
Different.
But it's more socially acceptable and people are afraid they're going to lose control and use a product and then all of a sudden have to get called because somebody's at an overnight and needs to be picked up because they're missing home, you
Right.
know?
But what if you had 3 glasses of wine before someone's at an overnight and needs to be picked up?
Yeah.
I mean, I would be out if I had 3 glasses of wine. Yeah. Yeah, we have this stigma. Alcohol is so socially acceptable. I was married to an alcoholic for 20 years, it destroyed my family. It destroyed our marriage. It destroyed, his relationship with his kids, his relationship with me, his relationship with his family, himself. It destroyed us in every single way possible. And I personally, because that's my experience, right? That's my personal journey. I look at that and I go, cannabis doesn't do any of this at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, actually, I don't know if you know Ngaio Belam. He's a hilarious comedian, and he's also the MC of the International Cannabis Business Conference. And he talks about his cannabis use making him a better parent. And it's hilarious, but there's a lot of truth to it. He's like, I kids want to go see a funny movie. I'm like, yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
go.
Let's get snacks and go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
patience and just being able to relax because a lot of okay, I full disclosure, I'm an auntie. I'm not a mom. But I see what my sibling goes through, what my and it's like one of those things where you with everything going on in life when life happens, it's like how do you find that space and that kind of sigh of relief, the relaxation that you need so that your reactions to your children remain authentic and not colored by everything else that's happened in your day.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I have several friends who have had breast cancer, women, and there's a huge link between alcohol and breast cancer. There's studies out there. There's a huge link, and they'll still go drink, but they will not touch cannabis. And so it's this stigma or this mentality of like, you know, where's the disconnect?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a social thing. I mean, before I had colon cancer, I mean, I've always had a close, small group of female friends.
Hmm.
I've always had a group of guy friends that I hung out with. And so back in the day before I was sick, I could hold my own when I would go out with the guys. I could
Yeah.
have like, a few
Same.
bourbons and,
Yeah.
be fine. But, like, during my treatment, it's not that I couldn't have alcohol, but when you're dealing with nausea and not feeling good, you have no desire, none whatsoever. And so when I started revisiting using cannabis more regularly, because I'm not gonna say that there was ever a time where I completely stopped. It was just more sporadic through my life.
Uh-huh.
After cancer, I was like, I don't like the way I feel after I drink. I don't like that my rings are tight. I don't like the next morning where I have a little of underlying anxiety because my body's still reacting to the fact that I poisoned it the night before.
Hmm.
Not to say that I don't enjoy like a glass of bourbon or a glass of wine every now and then, but the idea of overserving myself or getting a little too tipsy on it does nothing for me now.
I made a conscious decision 6 years ago, given my journey, witnessing my ex-husband just destroy his life and our life. But I still drank socially. I would go have a margarita with my girlfriends, a glass of wine, whatever. It's a beautiful day. Let's sit on the patio and have a nice cocktail. But I made a conscious decision about 6 years ago to stop drinking. And I've never looked back. It just didn't serve me anymore. I was waking up groggy and hungover, missing my gym classes, not functioning at a high level, spending a boatload of money on going out and drinking for nothing, worried about driving home after a couple cocktails. And so I just made a conscious decision to stop drinking. And I haven't looked back ever. It's just served me very well. And so, but using cannabis as wellness, it's a totally different shift in perspective. And people, that's where it's my job, your job, our job as a collective to educate the public. Just exactly what you're doing, hosting a podcast.
Yeah, I think it's super, super important. And I of when I was still heading up education at my prior job, I had a class called Cannabis and Women. And we would talk about, what was going on with hormones and how your body reacts to cannabinoids and how to find that sweet spot for yourself. And one of the things that I used to hear from a lot of women who were, they had gone through menopause and everything. They're like, Well, what is this? What is this for me?" Like, they made it sound like, there's this fallacy that once you go through menopause, there are no hormones going through your body. And it's like, no, no, that's not true. This is for
Right.
you as well. And have you had anybody asking you questions about that at all?
Well, it's really interesting. I was a guest at the world's hottest menopause party, which was in Vegas over the weekend on
I
Saturday.
love it. The world's hottest menopause party. That's awesome.
It was awesome. And there were lots of doctors on the panels, that medical doctors, OBGYNs, cardiologists, endocrinologists. And it was a really cool event because she was able to have 60,000 people join virtually. And there were screens behind her of all these people joining virtually. And so you could see the chats going through. It's like this ginormous Zoom call. And I was reading what the questions people were asking, and she did a Q&A at the end with a panel of like 5 doctors. And a lot of the questions, not all, a lot of the questions were, what do you offer for non-hormonal treatment? What do you offer that is I've had breast cancer, or I don't want to take hormones, or they don't sit well with me, or whatever. And none of these doctors really had an answer. None of them. And so I left there kind of frustrated, but also inspired, because then I was like, that's my job to answer those questions. I'm a woman in menopause. I was seeking alternative methods to go through some of the anxiety, sleep issues, brain fog that I was experiencing, tremendous shoulder pain. I didn't even know shoulder pain was associated with menopause until I started doing research. All these things that you're like, that's menopause? That's menopause? UTIs, my hair loss, all kinds of things. And so I had started seeing a functional medicine doctor about a year and a half ago. And I thought that, oh, this is going to be what's going to solve my problems. And all I did was spend boatloads of money and get, I don't know, 10, 15, sometimes 20 supplements that I would be leaving there with. And I'm like, this can't be good for me. Just like taking pharmaceutical drugs or over-the-counter drugs, taking a handful of supplements that's going through, bypassing my kidneys and my liver. It can't be good for me to be taking all of these. So I was looking for something else. And Hello Again fell in my lap. It really did fall in my lap, and ended up finding out about the product. And I was like, I really want to try this. This is really interesting. Knowing what I knew, not very much, but what I knew about the endocannabinoid system, knowing how I felt, and knowing the benefits of CBD and THC combined, how it could, help. And the fact that I wasn't getting high and it wasn't going through my liver, those were all pluses for me. Plus, I have a passion for women's health and wellness. And so, short story is, I tried the product and I bought the company, but it's
That's,
kind
I
of
mean,
weird.
that's the ultimate advocacy for a product. It's like you liked it so much, you bought the company.
Exactly. I was like, okay, I'm no longer coming home with 20 supplements. I feel better. Like, I truly started sleeping better. I wear an Aura ring, so I monitor my sleep. I went back and tracked what my sleep looked like before I started taking Hello Again, and then after. But I also want to say, Sarah, it's not a one and done type of thing. It's a consistency, as I'm sure you know. It doesn't just solve your problems immediately. It's like if you're low on vitamin D and you take one vitamin D pill, it doesn't really change your levels. And that's the same thing with your endocannabinoid system. It's out of balance. And to keep it in balance, you have to be consistent with feeding it cannabinoids.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I found that, because for me, I'm entering into that stage of my life where I'm starting to get shoulder pain and the hot flashes. And, it's like at night going to sleep with like a scrunchie or something around my wrist just in case I've got to pile my hair on my head.
Mhm. Mhm.
Using the Hello Again product really helped me have a good night's sleep without having the temperature changes and things like that.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so impressed by it, and I remember my neighbor who's a dear friend of mine, I was telling her about it, and she's like, "Wait, what? How many milligrams are in this? Oh, is this gonna no, no, it's not gonna get you high." I'm like, "Believe me." She's a school teacher, so I was like, "Try it on a weekend night so you feel, like, very
Right.
secure about the morning." The next
Right.
she knocked on my door and she was like, "Oh my god, that was amazing." I loved that.
I love it. I love, and it's not for everybody. I also want to say that
Uh,
some people have called me or told me, I tried it. I tried it for 3 or 4 nights. It didn't work. It's not the product for you. And that's okay. For me, it worked. And I became so passionate about it. I was like, it was originally sold in dispensaries in California
mhm.
because it has legal THC in it. And when I tried it, I was like, how can I get this in the hands of women everywhere? Well, I had to create a D2C channel and sell it via e-commerce in a retail, online through a website. So we had to reformulate it slightly and change it from THC to CBD. So it's a hemp derived product now. But it was really important for me to maintain the efficacy of the product, so we did use full spectrum CBD versus broad spectrum. So we do have the legal limit of THC in the products. And then with all the research that I had done, I was like, how can we enhance this and make it even better? So we did add minor cannabinoids to each of the products. So, like for instance, now our sleep product has CBN, which does help. There's studies out there that show that it helps with inducing your sleep or helping you get a better night's sleep. It also has the menopause product has CBC, which I literally just read an article today on how it helps with brain cognition and brain fog and functioning, clarity. And that's one of the biggest complaints or things that I hear women who are going through menopause is the brain fog. And then our period product, we added CBG, which helps with inflammation. It helps reduce inflammation. So we've enhanced them with minor cannabinoids as well.
Yeah, and the CBG I find also helps with clarity and focus
It
because that's
does.
jam during the day. Like
Yep.
I don't have the time to indulge in THC during my daily work. It's just too distracting.
Yes.
Have something like CBG or CBC as something I use regularly really helps just get through the day, be clear, get rid of the brain fog, and look at my list and be like, all right, let's get it done.
Yeah. And you know what else I find is if I have a very stressful day, and I could start to feel my stress level increase, my anxiety increase, I'll go put a suppository in. And within 15 or 20 minutes, I mean, I'm not going to say it's completely changed my mood, but it's definitely reduced the anxiety that I was feeling. So it's not just a one time use for sometimes I use it 2 or 3 times in the day, depending on how stressful I am or how much anxiety I have. But yes, CBG is huge at reducing inflammation and balancing your mood.
Yeah, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's such just having the conversation about modes of use. Like when I do a lot of policy work, and especially when I'm going into areas where they're starting to talk about what they want to allow in the states
Mhm.
of use. And it's really interesting because it's not informed by fact, it's informed by the culture of the state and also stigma. And so they're like, "Oh, this state will allow these things, they won't allow that." And sometimes it's really weird. You're like, "Why not that?" But having the conversation about the fact that we need to have things that are inhalable, things that are sublingual. We need to have things that well, and in many ways, like the hello again is kind of like a sublingual, but just for the other half of your body. You know,
Right.
looking at just all the transdermal, the topical, and why we need to have all these different modes of use because we are walking chemistry experiments and we're all really different about how we are able to successfully ingest cannabis. And some of us can't do it at all. But
Right.
to have those modes of use available is it creates the opportunity to positively impact as many people as we possibly can.
Are you looking for a lasting, meaningful way to connect with your audience and highlight your brand? Well, listen up, because Planted with Sara Payan is taking on new sponsors. Here's a powerful stat. 20% of listeners are more likely to support brands they hear about on a trusted podcast. And 60% actually look up that product after hearing about it. That's the power of podcasting. Planted with Sara Payan has a unique draw. With remarkable guests, we attract and engage audience that spans all sides of the cannabis spectrum. Picture your message reaching these listeners time and again. Podcast ads are evergreen, meaning your brand stays relevant as new audiences discover and binge past episodes. It's a long-term investment that keeps on giving. If you're looking for a targeted, passionate audience with lasting impact, the right listeners are here waiting to meet your brand. Visit plantedwithsara.com to get a copy of our sponsorship deck today.
Look, if gummies are your thing, take a gummy. If smoking or vaping are your thing, you should do that. If you like the topicals and the tinctures, you should do that. This is just another delivery method. But what I have found is for women and men, because we do have men who use this product rectally, and especially men who are going through cancer treatment, they have been our biggest advocates, honestly. But what happens is when you're delivering weed for your vagina in your vagina, it is hitting you where you need it the most, which is for a woman in your pelvic region when you're experiencing endometriosis or period pain or back pain or polycystic ovarian syndrome or, sleep issues, moodiness. It's delivering it where you need it the most. And so that is my favorite, just learning more and more. And I'm educating myself every single day, Sara, on vaginal delivery, cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids. Our product line that we released is period, sleep, and menopause. And I talk to women every single day who are in menopause, and I ask them, what's your number one symptom besides weight gain? Because weight gain is just across the board one of the things that I hear all the time, but it's anxiety. And so our next product is going to be anxiety. We are releasing a new product in a couple of months, and it's going to be anxiety.
That's a lot of people need that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find when I was head of education and we would have female focused products coming in,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they were products that were going to be used vaginally, whether it was like a balm or a suppository or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest issues I would always have is how to get the bud tenders to have the conversations. Now, for a lot of women, it was easier with women, although there were some women that were a little squeamish about having the conversation with strangers on the other side of the bar.
Right.
Guys they would just balk. I would see them get pale, and I'd be like, "All right, guys, we're gonna get clinical." And there doesn't have to be anything creepy about it as long as you stay friendly and clinical. I'm like, say it with me, boys. Vagina, vagina, vagina.
Right. Right. And I think that was a big hindering challenge block with selling it through dispensaries in California, which we pulled it out. We no longer sell in dispensaries. But, I know that the founders had to go and do educational classes with the bud tenders. And here's the thing, I'm a 56-year-old woman. If I am thinking about all my options for menopause, I'm not thinking I'm going to walk into a dispensary and go talk to a 25-year-old bud tender and say, hey, I have vaginal dryness or moodiness or hot flashes. They're not going to know what I'm talking about. And they're not going to know what kind of product to give me. They might tell me to take a gummy if I tell them I have sleep issues, but they're not going to really know. So taking it direct to consumer and, selling it via a website has allowed us to really educate our consumers. And that is my sole job as we build this company, is to educate, educate, educate. I mean, I had my ex-sister-in-law, I brought her some suppositories and she's like, I'm not putting that in my vagina. Just flat out said. So, I mean, there's just people that are like, no, I won't use it, but they don't know all the benefits. And so that's my goal, is to educate and inform the public.
Yeah, well, and I think with your background in marketing, it's like that's all about communication.
Mhm.
So you've got all the skills to be able to get out there and really spread your message.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
actually, here's a question for you.
sure.
For the people who are listening, and we get a lot of consumers listening, but we also have so many of our colleagues listening as well. What, a year and a half ago, if somebody said Lisa Williams, you might say, "Oh, I know her from marketing," or something like that. But you're everywhere now in the industry, and that's awesome because your message needs to be out there, but what is your secret sauce for getting out there and really making these connections and getting your messaging out? Because it is so important. It's one of the biggest challenges a lot of people have, especially if you're a shyer person.
You're going to make me cry. Thank you for asking me. So at the end of 2023, so I have a marketing agency. It's called the Toke Agency. At the end of 2023, we decided we were working with cannabis and non-cannabis clients. And the cannabis client, in my head, I kept saying, there were two of them. I kept saying, those are my outliers. Those are my one-offs. I don't really concentrate in cannabis. These this is my these are my main focus. And so at the end of 2023, we were like, this really is our main focus. We're really freaking good at cannabis marketing. We've learned a whole hell of a lot, and we need to niche down and narrow our focus. So in January of 2024, we went all in on cannabis marketing. I sunset my other business, cried, had a pity party for it, little funeral to put it to rest. And I was like, okay, how do I don't know one single person except the dispensaries that we worked with. I don't know anybody in the cannabis space. I've never been to an event. I don't know who to contact. I know nobody. This was in January of last year. So I spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. I spent a lot of time building my personal brand on LinkedIn. And I just started looking for people in the cannabis space. And Seth Yakatan was one of the first people that I came across. He'll love that I mentioned his name, by the way.
I love Seth.
And he had just listed a post of people that you should know in the cannabis space. And he listed, I don't know, 10 people. I don't even remember who was on that list. I just went and clicked every single one and started connecting with them. And then I wrote Seth a message, a DM, and I just said, besides these 10 people, who else do I need to know? And he said, I would start with them. And maybe he listed a couple others. And I literally got on calls with as many people that would get on a call with me, just to introduce myself, find out who they are, what they do, how we could partner. And that's where it started, Sarah. But let me also tell you, it's a lot of work. I spent probably a couple hours a day doing that every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's difficult. It's difficult to do your work and network at the same time.
It's so that was in January. By April, it was Benzinga that was in Florida. It was being hosted in Florida. And I decided to go. And I probably knew 10, maybe 15 people in the cannabis world at that time. And that expanded my network. I literally just went up to as many people as possible, introduced myself, talked to them. I'm also not shy. I have a marketing background, so that serves me very well. Um, I'm also, people tell me, and I know that this to be true, I'm very authentic. I come across as very authentic. I'm very relatable. People find it easy to talk to me. It's just part of my personality. So I think that had a lot to do with it. By the time I left Benzinga in April, I was like, I'm speaking at the next Benzinga. I mean, that was already in my head. And I started applying to speak at different events. I got accepted. I got to share my story. I met more people, joined groups and networking, and that the kind of the rest. And then by May to June, I was already investigating Hello Again. And I was already thinking in my head, how do I play both sides of the coin? How do I own a brand and and own a marketing agency? But
Yeah.
it's worked out.
That's wonderful, and excuse the meows in the background. I have a very sassy rag doll who likes to he's like, "If mom is doing something, I wanna be a part of it," so he's voicing his discontent.
So funny. Um, so yeah, it was just how can I make myself known? And not only make myself known, but the Toke agency known, Hello Again known. Um, and that was my mission. And so by the time I went in December to MJ Biz, I was speaking. I had already acquired Hello Again. I had already networked the hell out of myself over the whole year. And so people were like, "You're everywhere." And I was like, "It just seems like I'm everywhere. I worked really hard to get here."
Yeah, no, it's not a it's just like in the music business when they say someone's an overnight success, and they're like, "Do you know how much work it was it wasn't like somebody just picked me out of my bedroom and said, 'You're the one.'"
No,
Yeah, there's
it
some
was it was a lot of work. And also in the cannabis space, I found a lot of friendly faces and a lot of people willing to open up and have a conversation with me, because at the time I wasn't looking for anything from anybody other than to build connections. And so I think that if I was to do it over again, that's exactly how I would do it. I wanted nothing from them. I didn't ask them to buy anything from me or pay for anything. I wasn't asking to buy anything for them or even asking them for advice or to give me something for free. It was truly to build a connection. That's what it was.
I think that's super, super important. I mean, it's because for all of the friendly faces that there are in cannabis, and we have some of the most lovely colleagues.
Lovely.
There's also that side that can be slightly transactional, and I've found, like, I've had people who've reached out to me and, if I know you and we have a relationship, well, geez, you need anything from me, I'm happy to help.
Yeah.
You reach out and you're automatically doing the ask, and I understand because it's stressful when you're trying to get things going or you're looking for a job or what have you, but you really need to take the time to get to know people and not start off transactional. I mean, that's just something that's just not just for cannabis, that's for life.
For life, it's for anybody. And I mean, people are going to buy from me because they know, like, and trust me.
Yeah.
People are going to want to be on your podcast or sponsor your podcast or be part of your networking group because they know, like, and trust you. They see you, they hear you, they talk to you. It's the same thing for any business across the board, any relationship across the board. I mean, we used to laugh and say, you're not going to get married before you date. You have to know somebody.
Yeah, you have to establish that relationship and really I mean, it's a process. It's
It's a
work.
process.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to, authenticity isn't something that's yes, it's inherent in people, but it's not something that can always be illustrated overnight.
right. And I remember from seeing your post that you posted this week. I know you're interviewing Jamie Pearson, and she is actually on our board of advisors for Hello Again. And she's actually the one that brought Hello Again to me. So having someone like her in your network and in your corner, and we became friends. I mean, we literally, I call her a friend. She's a colleague, but she's also a friend.
Mm.
And so having people like her in your corner and in your space cheering you on, it fuels you, it ignites you.
It
And
does. And oh no, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I
I
interrupted.
was just say I want to be that for other women as well, but go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it. It's about having those connections and being there for people, and that energetic exchange is so very important. And I love Jamie. She's
It's awesome.
Yeah, I have said this to several people. I'm like, even though we're very, I think we're probably, I'm going to speculate, we're close to the same age. I'm like, I want to be Jamie when I grow up.
She's just so genuine and so approachable. It's funny because I don't know her outside of the transaction of hello again, and then that's how we established a relationship. But people have told me, do you know how hard it is to get her attention, to get into her circle, to get, just because she's in such high demand and people want to, she's getting pulled at so many different ways. And I was like, no.
No, but it's a huge compliment for somebody who's she's in demand. She's been such a player in the industry. She understands things. She sees both sides. Like
Hmm.
there's this, we talk about, like, I did an earlier episode with Luna Stour, and we were talking about roots versus suits.
Hmm.
And when we look at this, it's like we have to. Jamie's one of those people that she may be a suit. She's a suit with heart. She
Yeah,
understands. She
she
gets
understands.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very nuanced. Like you can't just come in with a corporate background and think I'm going to smash this. This is going to happen. It's like you have to know the stories. You have to understand the heart and the passion behind what we're doing, and you have to have some of that within yourself to succeed.
And that's my goal is, she's a fabulous, like people want to get in her circle because they want access to her Rolodex.
Mhm.
And, you asked me like, your name is everywhere. And that's what I want to build is I want to build that Rolodex. I want connections so that the next time somebody says, hey, I'm looking for whatever, I know how to put these two people in touch.
Yeah,
It's just that would fuel me. It would make my heart happy if somebody did a business deal because I put them together. That was meant to be. I was meant to be the connector. And I think also I'm very spiritual. And I think people come into your life who connect with you at the same vibration that you're vibrating at. And not to say that there's a good vibration or a bad vibration, there's just levels of vibration. I think of it as a dial on a radio, like you're either at 98.6 or you're at, 101.2. And whatever your dial is, that's where you're vibrating. And those are the people, somewhere in that range of your dial that you're attracting to you. And then, have you ever walked into a room or walked down, in a store or in a cafe or a restaurant, and there's people that you see and you might have eye contact with, or you might smile at. And then there's people that are around you, there's people around you, but you never have a connection with them.
yeah,
And they're not on your dial. They're not vibrating on your level. And so I think, this is why we're together and we're talking on your podcast. This is why there's people in my life that I've brought into my life based on my vibration. Everybody has a vibration, and you're bringing those people into your life.
yeah, yeah. People find each other, and it's a beautiful thing. That's one of the things that I love the most. Is like walking into a room, and then there'll be somebody that I've never met before, but there's something about them that I'm just kind of like, even though I don't know you, I know you.
I know you. It's the vibration. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think sometimes, when I've talked to people and they're like, because for all the amazing people that we work with, there are situations, especially being a nascent industry that's still marked by stigma, people
Hmm.
just get burnt, and people get burned in business anyway.
Yeah.
And I've had several conversations with people who have felt very defeated by some of the interactions that they've had. And I was like, you just have to keep the faith. Like, you have to look at who you're surrounding yourself with. And I honestly believe that good people find each other and then we work together. whether it's just as friends, having conversations, solving problems, whether it's more formal, these things come there's just I'm gonna use a term that sometimes I make fun of, but there is a synergy.
There
Sometimes
is.
I'm like, people are like, "Synergy," and I'm like, "Oh, Tony Robbins, what the
Right.
hell?"
Right.
You know?
But it really is true. There's some kind of connection. There's some kind of relationship that you're building together based on, like you said, I want to know this person. I need to talk to this person for whatever reason. And I did a podcast. It's probably been like 4 or 5 months. And it was more of like a Zoom kind of interview where people were on, but it was still a podcast thing. And 2 or 3 women that were on that podcast that were listening to them interview me reached out to me separate and just said, I feel like I just need to have a conversation with you. And I love that. I love that that's what I'm putting out into the world.
Yeah, we need more of that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what creates better conversations. That's where you can have a conversation with somebody that you may not entirely have the same beliefs, but that conversation helps bridge the gap and a better understanding of one another. And in this world, the way things are going right now, we need more of that.
We so need more of that, Sarah. And I mean, I could go into a deep conversation about like you grew up the way you grew up. I grew up the way I grew up. Somebody taught you, told you, you learned through your parents, through your education, through your community. Same with me. So that formed our beliefs. And nobody's beliefs are right or wrong because they're so individual to us. You could even have a set of twins who grew up in the same family who have totally different beliefs because of their teachers, because of their, activities, because of their communities. And so I think I hope that I am open-minded enough to allow those conversations to happen without shutting somebody down based on their beliefs and saying, okay, just me in my head, that's not the way I believe, or that's not the way I perceive things. However, I loved the conversation and I have some great takeaways from it.
Yeah,
And it might change the way I look at something in the future.
absolutely. And I think that the openness for seeing people's perspectives also leaves both people with that opportunity to grow,
And how enriching is that?
right?
Yeah. Yeah, like, don't we isn't that the goal of life is to always grow? Isn't that, like, what we all want?
I really believe that. That's how I've tried to live my life, and I catch myself when I get really caught up in my values. Like, my values are very important to me. I'm very
Sure.
opinionated, but I'm also open to the fact that when I look back to see, like, when I was a young woman in my, like, late teens, early 20s, how different I am from my traditional Midwestern upbringing
Mhm.
today. And there are lots of things that I still hold dear that I'm very glad I was raised as. And there are things that no longer suited me as I started to evolve and become more of a citizen of the world. And what did that mean to me? And now being older, how am I growing? How am I enriching my life? How am I constantly proved wrong? I mean, even with cannabis, like people will say, because it's the state of California sees me as a subject matter expert, over 20,000 hours of experience with human beings and cannabis. But guess what? Not an expert, always learning. And that's what
Always.
I love about what we do. We're always
Yes,
learning.
always learning. I love how you say, you outgrew what suited, things didn't suit you anymore and you outgrew them. And I feel the same way. I mean, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, or the person that I was married, when I was married, or the mom that raised young kids who my kids are, now 24 and 25 years old. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that. Um, and so, your values, some of them change over time. Your beliefs change. I mean, I'm a 56-year-old single woman living in the state of Texas, selling a vaginal suppository that is infused with CBD and minor cannabinoids.
Right?
right?
Awesome is that? That reminds me when I worked downtown in the financial district in a civil rights nonprofit before I got sick. Afterwards, I decided not to go back in the office. I was going back to school, and that's what got me into my work in cannabis. And I remember telling my mother at the time, I was like, you're single." I think I was like maybe like 42, 43. 42-year-old daughter lives on the edge of San Francisco by herself in a house with her cat and sells weed. How do you feel about that? My mom was like, "I feel pretty darn good about it, Sarah." But it was just like
Yeah.
made me giggle, like, thinking about it. It's like if you had told 20-year-old me that that was what was gonna happen, I'd been like, "What?
I
What?"
mean, yeah, imagine me telling my kids, who smoked weed growing up, and I was like, "No, you cannot smoke weed. It's so bad for you," because I'm the parent at the time. Imagine my kids when I tell them, I'm actually in the cannabis industry and I actually sell a product that has cannabis in it.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
it's that lens through which you see things.
Mhm.
And the applications, and it's like it's always funny taking things out of context, but then when you put the context in and, like, what's behind all of it, there's just so much more to the story, and that's why we have these conversations, because the conversation is normalization, and when we look in too often in our world, we either sensationalize things or we take them for face value through our own personal lenses, and I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that we can make.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you're excited and hopeful about in the future as you and I have more conversations to have,
We
but
do, because we could
we
sit
get
here and talk
together,
forever.
so
So we just launched our website about 3 weeks ago, and you can now buy Hello Again online through our website at helloagainproducts.com. I'm super excited to see how this product starts to resonate outside of our echo chamber, because Sarah, you and I are in the cannabis world, right? And so that's a very niche topic in the cannabis world, but people talk about it. So how do I get my product out into mainstream? And how do I get other women to start talking about it, going, "Oh, you're having period pain or sleep issues or take Hello Again." And because I mean, you have girlfriends, I have girlfriends, we all share products, right? Like it's
yeah,
like, what's your lipstick? What are you wearing? Where'd you get your shoes? And so how can I get so I'm excited to continue building those conversations with women outside of the cannabis world so that I could start to become more mainstream and people will look at the product as a wellness product versus some weird weed thing that you put in your vagina.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, and I think it also opens up the conversation that I mean, so many of us, especially like, Gen X and older, we were really kind of squeamish about talking about our bodies unless you like grew up with like, this feminist mom with Ms. Magazine and stuff. You weren't having those conversations. We need to normalize talking about our bodies. They are not mysterious. They're, as women, we're supposed to be sharing information so that, it's like normalizing it and then just figuring out from there, this is a great conversation. What will work for me?
Right. And that's where I want to educate my consumers and my audience on this is an option, it's an alternative. It can work either with or without whatever you're doing right now in conjunction with it. And you have the option, and I want to empower you to make that choice. I also, Sarah, in owning a company that is a wellness brand, I also think it's my duty to educate women more about their bodies and make it a normalized conversation and say the word vagina. I feel like Hello Again, cannabis and menopause are on this parallel path where it's starting to normalize the conversation. And then you add fem health in there, and we're at that intersection. That's our Venn diagram of all three of those. And so how do we start to normalize the conversation about menopause, about women's bodies, about your vagina, about the endocannabinoid system, about cannabis? How do we get other people outside of our echo chamber to understand that this is a wellness product, that it's meant for wellness? And what does it do to help? What are the benefits that you receive when you start to take a product like Hello Again or any other cannabinoid type product?
Yeah, and for those of us going through perimenopause, menopause, it's not the end of our vibrancy. Like, it's
No.
about learning how to create the balance. As human beings, we're constantly striving for homeostasis. We get a little challenged when things are moving quickly with our hormones and things are changing, and it takes years to figure out what's going on because it's a gradual thing that's going
It
on, but it's not the end. It's actually a renaissance. It's just a different time that we're stepping into, and how to create, step into our power around it and enjoy this time of our lives. Because I'll tell you what, when everyone asks me, like, how do you feel when you're getting older? I'm like, the beautiful thing about getting older, every year, and I'm not saying that I'm not at all, but every year I get a little less neurotic.
Well, I get a little less, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you, I am living my best life right now. And I mean, I'm postmenopausal, right? I've already gone through menopause, and so learning, what is menopause, what is perimenopause, what is postmenopause. It's all this transition of going through hormonal changes in your life. But, yeah, I feel like I'm living my best life. I really
Living
do.
our best lives.
Yeah.
And for people who want to follow you on social media, learn more about Hello Again, and purchase products, how can they do that?
So helloagainproducts.com is our website. Lisa Williams on LinkedIn. And then Hello Again Products at Hello Again Products is on Instagram. And we put a lot of fun, bold, punchy, cheeky reels out on Instagram. So I would really encourage you to go follow us because it's fun. I love creating some of the content that we create, and my team does a great job. And we pull like old sitcoms and parodies and all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun. We add a lot of pop culture and, just bold cheekiness to it.
I love that. I love that. So for all of you out there, check it out. For you ladies out there, don't be afraid to explore and figure out other solutions. Suppositories may seem a little foreign, but it's really an interesting thing to delve into and check out. And as somebody who has done it herself, I can't speak more positively about it. It's worked for me. Check it out at least once.
Thank you. I've
Thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed this.
Oh, me too. And you really do have to come back.
I want to. I will. I can't wait.
Until next time. Oh, thank you so much. That was awesome, Lisa.
Thank you, Sarah. I could talk to you for hours.
I know. Well, I would really, really love to have a regular time where we just get together and chat. Like, I think that we could,
Yes.
well, it's just nice to make a new friend
I
too.
know. I would love it. And when the podcast goes live, let me know.
We'll
We
do.
will share it on all our social channels. I'll share it with my team. They'll push it out. We'll put it in our newsletter. We'll put a link in our newsletter to make sure that we share it as well. And I'll
Thank
post it on LinkedIn and all of that stuff.
I would love it. Oh, I think Jeff wants to poke his head in and say hi.
Hi,
Just want to say
Jeff.
thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be part of this. Thank y'all so much. This was
Oh,
awesome.
Oh, we've been looking
absolutely.
forward to having you on. We
Yeah.
we
Thank
follow you
you.
so closely on LinkedIn and everything. Love what you're doing.
Thank you. I've actually taken a little break off of LinkedIn for like the last couple of weeks. I just was starting to get burned out, and I have so much to
Sure.
do that I need to focus on, that I was like, it's not worth my time right now to spend an hour plus time on LinkedIn. So I'm
Wow.
reformulating my strategy because I need to make it more about Hello Again and kind of the conversation that I just had with you, Sarah, more about women's wellness and all of that. So So I'm in this pause till I transition.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
did Jeff ask you for a photo for the graphic?
I have
I'll
not.
send it to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thanks y'all so much. I
Oh, absolutely.
really enjoyed this. So can't wait till it comes out and to share it.
Oh, I know, me too. And I'll email you so we can set up a time just to chat.
Please do. Please do. I would love it.
Cool. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
And everyone, remember, if you like listening, please give us a review, share it with a friend, let us know what your favorite episodes are. And if you'd like to stay in touch over social media, we are Planted with Sara Pion on Facebook and Planted with Sara on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, www.plantedwithsara.com, or listen to us on our parent network, Radio Misfits Network, where there are other great podcasts, like one of my favorites, the Winemakers Podcast. So check it out. You can listen to Planted wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, whether that's Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Tune in. We are there. So join us. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, it's a wild world out there. Be good to one another. Until next time, take care.